Good morning, everyone. So I will introduce myself, and I know Ken's been bugging me for a while to come out and present to you guys to explain my position in the company. And I will do that from the very beginning. It's been an interesting last 11 months in the new role, and in the true sense of innovation and very much validating the fact that our Managing Director, Bruce Munro, is an innovative engineer. He gave me basically a remit and a 6-month trial period, because innovation is very much about trial and error. So yeah, 11 months ago he gave me that 6-month opportunity, and the fact that I'm 11 months into it, I think things are going reasonably well, so that's good. But it was born from my experience with the company. This is the 10th calendar year that I've worked for Thiess, which is quite rewarding in itself, but also my experience on most major projects going right back to Eastlink, and in the last 5 years, of course, with Airport Link and VDP, I spent quite a bit of time working on those projects in one way or another, and that was my experience in that regard, and my desire to mediate the situation that we have in society between computers and people really inspired me to write to Bruce and suggest some things that I thought I could really help with. And he gave me the opportunity to do that. So this org chart's one of the most recent ones. I think it's only updated a month or so ago. And you can see me down here as the Innovation Manager reporting to Bruce. And we've got a number of initiatives underway which we're working on, some of which I'll talk about today. But generally speaking, it's to do with, as I say, the computer and human situation, where we have things out there in the world like remote collaboration, model-based construction. As you know, Ken Panitz is an industry leader in that regard, and generally speaking, my role in the company really is to facilitate innovation and to explain it and help permeate innovative activity throughout the company. And you've got a fantastic innovator in Ken Panitz with your business unit, and I have to say that your business unit really is one of the ones leading the pack in terms of innovation activity within Thiess, which is great. But also part of this presentation, when I get to the end of it, will be to introduce Mark Dodgson, who has been recently appointed to our Thiess Advisory Board by Bruce, and he's certainly a world-renowned person for innovation in business, and it'll be great to hear from him. I'll do a proper introduction once I've run through a couple of slides. This is a slide that I've been using to try and frame the world, basically, where we are and where we've come from, and how technology's moved through a number of eras in history. We're in a very interesting period right now. These are my terminologies. I mean, you can get on Wikipedia and find out a number of different ones, and there's a lot more separations between different eras, but I think this is a good way to think about it, where work and the built environment was shaped very much with manual work right up until the Industrial Revolution began and continued, and during that period it was very much about machines. And now we come into this period where computers have been around for 20 odd years or so, and it's about the computers controlling the machines. And generally speaking, it's always about trying to find that place where you can increase efficiency with what you're doing. And what we do is engineering projects, which shape our environment, mine our earth, and then we also operate those facilities with services. So this is a good way to think about it, I believe. It simplifies a number of different eras in time, and if people start to realise that these computers really are just a tool and everything used to get done without them, then I think a lot of the fear goes away for the older generations, but also for the younger generations. They see that they're not the be-all and end-all, and that they actually need to help the older generations, and everybody needs to work together in order for us to continue having a good life. So the progressive changes throughout all this process, of course, are innovation. Now, to run back through Thiess's history, we very much were a company founded on innovation. Family values also played a very big part in that for Thiess. But the way the Thiess brothers adopted the tools of the time and then looked ahead and were the first adopters of many other tools and pioneered industries and whatnot was very innovative of them. And they didn't have any engineering qualifications, they just had a sense to innovate and be productive. And this is the very first innovation, you might say, that the family bought before they even founded the company, was the Titan tractor, and they used that then to start building roads. They realised they could control machinery and do productive things. So they chose to start building roads and dams, and obviously it took off from there. So in the 1940s and 50s, they started using aeroplanes and working within the constraints of the time. I mean, it was war years in the 30s and 40s, and they did whatever they had to do to continue operating a profitable business. And they went up to New Guinea and pulled wrecks out of the jungle and repaired them and used them, which is incredibly innovative. And I'm going to talk about the Thiess story, which is obviously where all this information about our history lives, and it resounds very well with myself, but also Bruce. I've approached Bruce about 18 months ago, and the very first thing he commissioned me to do was to begin the conversion process of the Thiess story into an ebook. And that's actually ended up being an 18-month journey, which we're finally sort of getting to the point where it's nearly done, and it will be able to be distributed to everybody for free. It wasn't always going to be that way. It was looking like we were going to have to pay the publisher, and there was all these negotiations with the author's estate and whatnot, but in the end we've managed to negotiate for the copyright to be transferred back to the company so that now we can add to that story and begin to capture things that have happened after 1981. But a really good story, a really good section out of this book. I mean, it's all very good. In today's terms, it's probably laborious reading. It's actually a non-fiction. It's got an index and everything, but I thought I'd choose this one segment to talk about today, which is relative to this Tuma Tummet drawing here, which was the first big contract that Thiess were awarded in Australia, 58 million, I think it was, back on the Snowy scheme, and I'm not sure of the years. But whenever the Snowy scheme was going, they were awarded this contract, and where that cross is where this photo was taken, which is a portal that they were able to get ventilation in and also get the machinery in and use it as part of the strategy to dig the tunnel. Section out of the book that corresponds to that, I'm just going to read it. It starts with a guy called Jacobs. He was a professional, world-renowned tunnel digger, a builder that came out of the US, so Thiess employed his services. And Jacobs suggested that a small bridge be built and the site located on the far side of the creek where there would be enough room for a workshop, offices and parking space for the underground equipment to be used. He then flew back to Sydney to design the equipment, and Stan got things moving at Deep Creek. Stan's the brother that was the real survey-minded guy. I didn't have any surveying instruments, he said, so I eyeballed the area out and set a couple of D8s going on the site. An astonished Snowy Mountain Authority engineer appeared a few days later and asked, "Where are the drawings for what you're doing at the portal?" It was news to Stan that he had to supply drawings and get approval before starting work. Supplied the drawings later, the Snowy Mountain Authority engineer winked at this initial piece of unorthodoxy and kept officialdom happy by giving written permission to level the site sometime after it was completed. So the message there, I believe, is that engineering intuition is fundamental. And one of the restrictions in the current world is that we're not putting the tools in the hands of our engineering minds. And it's something that I've been working to try and improve within Thiess for many years now. And we're getting better, but populating stories like this is going to hopefully be very useful, along with contributing to that higher social problem between computers and humans. So in the 60s and 90s, it was all about the machines. There's some machinery from the Snowy scheme, and obviously you've got the 996 and some heavy mining equipment. And I've just animated that one to sort of indicate how the computers is another layer over the top of the machines. But to capture that in a model, and you'll get the sense that engineers like myself with 10 to 15 years experience who learnt to be engineers using a computer, we very much want to analyse things as systems and define parameters and then understand things that way. I mean, my experience is very much with parametric geometry. So whenever I want to understand a system, I try to work out what are the parameters and how can I manage those effectively to get the outcome that I want to get. So I thought I applied that thinking to the way Thiess has developed since the 1930s, and in the very beginning there were two main parameters, which were the people and the work. The Thiess brothers just had their people and they did their work. And then in the very beginning, it wasn't even about the business or the money, it was just the fact that that's how they were facilitating their lives. So they communicated to deliver the work, and then, as I say, that facilitated their life. Well, that didn't last too long. Obviously, when your company expands, you need to get some business minds and accounting minds and whatnot to come in. So then the next significant parameter is, of course, money. But you still got to have good relationships to facilitate business, and then the money facilitates your life and goes back to the people. Well, in the present day, there's another one. Computers. Now, they definitely are just a tool. However, they have become very influential with what we do. We can't do very much in our lives without entering some information into a computer and then getting it out again. So the game very much becomes getting the information into the computer, communicating it out to deliver the work that we do. And this model, I believe, could last for some time. I mean, everybody's welcome to interpret things in their own way, and this is very much just meant to explain where we are in the world today, and where, more importantly, where are we going to get our next lot of efficiency from? And it is the computers. There will be advancements with machinery, but you've got to sit back and think, well, TBMs are pretty good. I don't know how much better TBM they're going to come up with to increase efficiency in the next 10, 20, 50 years. And there's a number of other situations. I mean, mining trucks and shovels and things like that are very high capacity now as well. It's hard to think we're going to squeeze too much out of the machines from now on. So we've got to get better with our processes, and we've got to get better with that means we've got to get better with the computers.